Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of Cellmates. And today we have Mary-Ann from Thermo Fisher. So welcome, Mary-Ann. And we can start with a quick intro.
Sure, thank you so much. Thanks for having me here. Hello, everyone. I'm Mary-Ann Santos. I am the Global Senior Manager for Strategic Collaborations and Partnerships. I had to breathe. It's a long title. And Partnerships for Cell, Gene, and Advanced Therapies at Thermo Fisher Scientific. And really what that means is that I utilize the entire Thermo Fisher Scientific ecosystem to help our partners get their therapies to the patients who need them. So that is my responsibility. It is great, but I love every minute of it. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here. And I'm Fred, co-founder and CEO of Multiply Labs. It's been a pleasure to work and collaborate, interface with Mary-Ann. Mary-Ann has seen really our robots right from the start, even from the first demos. She's seen them, she's seen the progress, and it's been fantastic to work together to bring this technology and all of the technology coming from Thermo Fisher together to all the organizations that need to manufacture advanced therapies, and in particular cell therapies.
Yeah, and thank you, because we have to do this together. If our villages don't come together, this is not going to happen. One of my biggest passions is health equity, and Thermo Fisher shares that. MLI shares that. Our partners share that with us, and we will get there. We're not there yet, but we will get there together. That patient accessibility.
Absolutely. And we believe a big part of that is automation to increase throughput, reduce cost, and so we're very happy to do our part. Of course, there's much more than that, but we're very happy to do our part. Wonderful. So, as in our Cellmates tradition, we have a set of cards with questions that neither me nor Mary-Ann have ever seen. And so let's start with the first question. So first question is, how did we meet?
How did we meet? It's a long time ago. I don't even remember what I had for dinner last night. But it was in your other, I think it was in your other facility.
Yeah.
You invited us, the Thermo Fisher Scientific team, to see the setup for the first time. And that's how I met you. And you said, oh, we're going to send this to another country, but we're going to do this for cell therapy. And I said, say again?
Oh,
do you remember that?
Yes, it was the small molecule robot. Oh,
yes,
now I remember
yes.
that. Yes, and then,
yes.
So you saw the very first, robot that we made and, shipped out.
Yeah.
And then you came back when we had the, the demo of the first cell therapy robot. So I remember you being there. But by that time, yes, we were already working together.
Yes. And I think I remember when Fred said, we're going to do big things. And we're going to do the exact same thing that we did with the small molecules. We're going to transfer that and translate it to cell therapy. And I said, how? And he said, watch us. They did. And it was amazing.
Yeah. Wow, right from the start. From the start.
Yeah. So we wanted to tell the story. You said, let's bring our partners together. And we did that, right? We did that. It's been, when did you first open?
Oh, the company started more than 7 years ago, but that conversation about, specifically the cell therapy was probably at least 4 years ago.
It was after, I want to say it was during the pandemic when it first started opening up, maybe 2021 or
I would say
something
2021.
like that. Yes, and then it started, and then we started bringing our partners.
Yes. Amazing! Oh my God!
So many memories. So many years. So many memories.
So, before we feel too old, second question. Second question is the adoption flywheel. So adoption can build momentum over time, almost like a flywheel. What helps automation adoption pick up speed, and what slows it down? So I think, Mary-Ann should start answering this because you have such a unique view of the ecosystem.
Yes. So what really speeds it up is the faith and belief in automation. That's what speeds it up. And our partners will say, I want in on that, because they see the future. They see the future, and they want to be a part of that, and they want that accessibility. Like I said, we share that passion for getting, increasing patient accessibility. So that's the speed. They want to know more. How can we get this done? So that's what speeds it up. What slows it down is fear.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people, it's not just, adoption of innovation that fear slows down. Fear as in, do I have enough funding? Is this even gonna work? It's too new. So it's that fear that slows it down. So what Fred and I together, we instill that confidence, and actually your staff is super amazing. So they instill that confidence of there's nothing to fear. People fear AI, people fear the robots, the humanoids. There's nothing to fear. It's gonna get us to the future. So hopefully fear doesn't slow our partners down, because we're in it together, and we're just gonna build the future together. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Thank you very much. That's a fantastic answer. And yeah, so from my point of view, important kind of like tailwind pushing towards automation is just the need for throughput and for reducing costs. So we know that the need is out there, and it determines a lot of outreach towards us. Like people come to us and like, oh yeah, we would like to go faster, we would like to reduce costs, right? How can we do it? But you are right that there is a lot of hesitation and fear because the job of a big pharmaceutical and biotech organization is to reduce risk, but they don't have a big engineering expertise. So from their point of view, the whole engineering automation can be a big added risk. And that's why it's so important that they come here and they see it, because once they see it, they meet the team, then, like Mary-Ann, you were saying, their fear really goes down because it's in front of their eyes.
And you know what else? Well, because I'm a scientist, you're a scientist, everybody here are scientists and engineers. What really reduces that fear is data.
Yeah.
And that's what MLI has a lot of. It's data, right? And really the reason why I got so attracted to and then just got so excited about MLI when I first talked to Fred is that crossroad and that combination of biology and engineering. That to me is gonna take us to the future.
Yes. No, you're completely right. And we really always prioritize data and actually publishing on peer-reviewed, journals, the performance data of the robots. And I have to say, in that respect, the Thermo Fisher team has been with us right from the start. So you guys have been co-authors in every single publication about cell therapy data, and we've been working together from the start. That was always an alignment that in order to give people the confidence they can trust automation, we must provide them the data, and that must be reliable peer-reviewed data. So it's been fantastic to work together and to see that alignment. And it's also a lot of fun to have joint visits. And so because there is another form of data that's very effective, which is just seeing the robot work in front of you. And
absolutely.
Yeah, that's very effective and also a lot of fun.
Yes, and actually too, because you're all engineers. I know Fred is such an awesome engineer. He built this whole company. The engineering always blows my mind because every little gadget that we have, whether it's iPhone, computer, the simplicity of how we use it, that I know that's your goal, is to make manufacturing more simple, right? Simpler, automatable or automated. And the genius of that is in the engineering itself. And when you combine biology and engineering, it works. It makes it easier for operators, for manufacturers to make these cell therapies, and it's the structure of what you've built together that's going to make it simple and easier.
Yeah.
Cheaper, lower cost.
Couldn't agree more. What's the next question? Let's see. What are the main challenges that organizations face when adopting automated instruments, and how can they be overcome? Well, actually, I can answer a part of this. What are challenges in automating new instruments? Well, there are several challenges from the engineering point of view. A big challenge can be if the instrument was designed exclusively thinking about people using it as opposed to robots using it, and it can be very complicated to automate something that wasn't really never thought out for, automation. Luckily, working very closely, with the Thermo Fisher team, we could identify and collaborate on instruments that are actually very favorable for automation. And I think the Rotea, for example, is a classic example, because such a simple, layout with all the valve on the same plane, right? That really makes the life of the robot easier. And so we love to collaborate on instruments that, have been already designed thinking about robots, or that maybe were not designed thinking about robots, but happen to be extremely, well streamlined in terms of design. Another instrument like that is, of course, the incubator, because we just need to automate, opening and closing, the door. And there, you have it. The robot can work with it very well. And so in our experience, it really makes a big difference in hardware, how the hardware is designed, and whether it's easy or not for a robot, to effectively operate it. On the software side, still engineering, Mary-Ann will talk about the biology, but from the engineering point of view, there's also a software part. On the software part, for us, it's very important to work very closely with the manufacturer of the instrument, because that means that we can easily talk to the instrument, right, without changing its software. And that requires collaborating with the, instrument developer. And that is something that we've done for so long and so successfully with the Thermo Fisher team, that now, automating a new instrument is actually pretty easy for us with the Thermo Fisher team. So those two hardware and software bottlenecks are very important to us. And I guess on the biology, I would defer to Mary-Ann.
Yeah, on the biology side, of course, the challenge is to make the manual be as good as the robots, right? The automated.
Yes.
Because we need to make the science work. So with the robots, it has to work. Right. So, but I think what's really great about working with MLI is that now, because we know what you need, we know what the engineers need to make it easier on the engineers, any new products that we develop, we already have that in mind. So whatever it is that we're developing now, we have the robots. It has to be amenable to robotics. So I think that's the greatness about working together and also evolving together. Right, we learn from, okay, well, this one, it was just hard for us to engineer it. So for next time, let's do it this way, right? So what really needs to happen is that the science must work. So the manual, my hands or the scientist's hands, the operator's hands have to be just as good as the robotics. But then the robotics will just make it, less contamination and all the advantages that robotics has. But the biology must be working.
Yes.
Has to be equal.
Very well put, and super aligned on that, on the importance of being, equivalent. Because if we were modifying the original process, then what's the point of automating it? So yeah, this is fantastic. Okay, well, next question. So, here, what are the strengths and trade-offs of modular automation compared to all-in-one systems?
I only have a few minutes. I can talk about this for an hour, maybe even 2. So with an all-in-one instrument, you are held to that instrument the entire time of your process. From start to fill finish, you are in that all-in-one instrument. With modular, you can control each step of the process, and so you're not just held to that one workflow or workstation. Right? And so that's why there are 2 different sets of folks. Do you want to completely from end to end automate it, or do you want to automate each individual unit of operation so you have full control over what you want to do for each step? So those are the 2. Now the trade-offs are, of course, the all-in-one, you just press a button and then you walk away. But you can only process one patient. Mm-hmm. One patient. The other you can solve with how MLI is trying to solve it, which is modular robotics automation. So it's not a walk away for one patient. It's truly a walk away because it's all working in conjunction with each other. So you can process more patients in that one manufacturing run or in that day. So to me, those are the 2 things that you want to consider. If you want to be team modular or team all-in-one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with everything you said. If you are modular, you can address bottlenecks in a very straightforward way. Well, you identify this lowest module and you just put more copies of it. And classic example is for example, the incubator, which is typically the instrument where cells are spending the most time. We have put up to 10 separate incubators in the same robotic system. If we were only one, we would need to have 10 robotic systems, right? And that would be, a lot of extra technology just to address the same bottleneck. So you can be much more efficient when it's modular. Another, super important, I think, consideration is we want to be future-proof. And so we know that the industry is always coming up with new reagents, new consumables, new instruments. And so what happens if you have, a process that's very optimized, but then there is that one new instrument that actually completely, improves your biology and your process? If you were only one, you cannot adopt it. You're stuck, right? You cannot change it. If you are modular, well, you can just add in a new module. So that flexibility is also super important. And so for all these reasons, modularity has always been at the core from the point of view of Multiply Labs. And that's, another of the reasons why we work, very well with the Thermo Fisher team, because when people are like, when cell therapy developers tell us, hey, we have a very good, optimized process, and that process uses Thermo Fisher technology. We're like, well, no problem. We work very well with them. And in fact, we already automated many of their instruments. So it really makes these adoption and trust building straightforward.
And it's all about speed, because patients can't wait.
Yes.
They can't wait. Their families can't wait. A lot of us have been affected by these diseases. And there's hope there that help will come. And so there's a sense of urgency here within the field. And I think whether you're a team modular or team all-in-one, we're all going towards the same direction. Of course, our philosophy at Thermo Fisher Scientific is being modular, so we share that with MLI. But I want to just bring us back to who we're all doing this for, which is for the patient.
Yeah, speed, you're right. Speed is super important. And that's maybe the most frustrating thing as a technology company. Sometimes, are like, well, how comes, things go so slowly, right? And so, in the pharmaceutical space, we really want, to help, and we want to help fast. And yes, being modular allows us to change the least things so that the level of trust and addressing the fears, of pharmaceutical companies can be done as rapidly as possible. Because yes, we want to move very rapidly. As of now, we're actually the only, robotics company that has ever deployed actually, fully, robotic system in the facility of a leading pharma company, right? And we got it, so fast, right? We got it done so fast because of this modular approach. So thank you very much, Mary-Ann. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, because regulatory, right? If you have to start all over again.
Yes.
Because MLI's approach, of course, is to not touch the least as possible with what you've already put together in your process development, right? Because it does not touch any of your equipment, and it just speeds it up without any regulatory, not without, minimizes the regulatory burden.
Yes.
Right? To get these therapies to the patients.
Yeah.
So speed is very important.
Fantastic. Okay, so next question. What regulatory or quality considerations most influence adoption, and how do teams address them?
Okay, I'm going to give the caveat that I'm not a regulatory expert, nor am I a part of quality, but first and foremost is safety, because that is what regulatory and quality, ensures and assures the patients, right? That it's going to be safe. So all of the regulatory, policies, and all the laws, it's all modeled so that we keep the patients safe, right? And so I certainly cannot, I do not want to pretend that I'm an expert, because I'm not, but I do see I work with quality teams, I work with regulatory teams, and they're very focused on making sure that they adhere to regulatory policies. And I think MLI does that as well. And we talked about speed. Fred and I talked about speed, right? And I think as long as you consider the policies and consider that number one is the patient safety, And that's why the robots are here, right? Like less contamination and all that. So for me, that's the comment that I would like to make without, because I'm not an expert.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, we see, the biggest needs are throughput and, and cost reduction. The biggest concerns are essentially repeatability and sterility. And repeatability and sterility are two things where robots tend to be extremely good, because one, robots always can actually quite easily always repeat the same action or the same trajectory, right, or the same checks without ever forgetting it. They just go through code. And so this is actually a very robotic attribute, which is perfect for a GMP manufacturing process, right? So having a very, very consistent, repeatable process, super important. Now, on the sterility point of view, well, robots don't breathe, right? So that's a very big advantage. Robots also don't touch what they're not supposed to touch. And, even if they did touch something, well, robots are not covered in bacteria. So, we believe that essentially the fundamental strength of robotics, which is, of course, it's an inorganic, system, right? And so, much easier to keep sterile. And it is a fundamentally deterministic system, right? Those two things are perfectly suited to address the two biggest concerns of the pharmaceutical GMP manufacturing industry, which are robustness and sterility.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to ignore the fact that Fred just called me dirty. Because he said I'm
but
full
also
of bacteria.
myself. I have to say, it's also a self-deprecating joke.
Yes, all us humans are covered with bacteria, which is...
Yes, all of us. In fact, if one of us would not be covered in bacteria, probably we wouldn't be doing very well.
Yeah, right. We are designed that way. Engineers, we were designed that way as well. But I think the patients don't need our bacteria in their therapy.
Exactly.
So that is a consideration: is that keep the patients safe. None of our bacteria in the therapy. So that's a consideration first.
Okay.
Before Fred loses himself in laughing, let's go to the next question.
Before I start giggling too much.
He gets the giggles.
Next. So, okay. How do you envision modular automation shaping cell therapy manufacturing next decade? Actually, I think we already, answered this when we were talking about modular and end-to-end.
Well, I actually have a question for you.
Okay,
because,
let's do it.
I have all these, discussions with our partners. Where do you see robotics and decentralized, if I can say that word, decentralized manufacturing? Because that's...
So yeah, you're right. It's super important. So I think there's two considerations. One, where do I see robotics, in the manufacturing kind of like process, but beyond end to end, like including inventory, loading, unloading. And the second part is where can this robotic process be implemented, and what's the smallest and most distributed scale. So the first answer is that I just don't see any reason to have any non-robotic component in a manufacturing facility, right? And so definitely the end-to-end process should be automated, but also loading and unloading the robot, that should also be automated. That's where we're starting to use humanoid robots. Managing the inventory, also automated. Every time there is, on the manufacturing floor or in the warehouse, a human touch point, you add the risk for contamination, like we were talking about, and you also add a bottleneck. So the vision is definitely where this is going is entire, end-to-end automation. At some point, you're not even gonna need lights because it's just, robots moving around, right? And maybe you can add lights, but it's mostly for the people watching the robots do their job, right? Mostly remote. Now, where can these be, implemented? I would say the smallest scale is the smallest scale that can still be a GMP facility, because it's super important for this robotic system to automate inside a GMP facility. And robots tend to not be GMP, magically on their own. They need a GMP facility, around them. Definitely using humanoids can probably extend the flexibility, because the humanoids could also, I guess, clean, manage the warehouse. You need to get in much less frequently, right? So much less contamination from outside. But the idea is that the distributed facility must still be able to run in GMP, because trying to do this advanced therapy manufacturing outside of a GMP facility, I believe the risk would be too high, and honestly, like, the regulators would also believe that. That's why they created GMP guidelines. So right now, I would say the constraint is that there are maybe 40, 50 hospital systems in the US that have GMP capabilities. There's much more smaller hospital systems that actually do not have GMP capabilities. And so perhaps with robotics, we can make it easier for them, for these smaller, local hospitals, to also be GMP grade. But that's basically where I draw the line. The local center must still be GMP, right? And if we can make that easier at a smaller scale, that's fantastic, but it must be GMP.
Right, so I mean, it's still, establishing that network of the trainers, the trainees, but really that's going to expand the access to these therapies, because if they can't get to these, like you said, these hospitals, they meaning the patients who need these therapies, they can't get to the hospitals. How do we get the therapies to them?
Yes.
So I mean, I think the future that I see, if I had a crystal ball right in front of me right here, the future that I see would be a combination of centralized, decentralized, trying to get to all patients, as much patients as we can, so long as they can afford it, right? And I think the robotics will actually play a big part into patient access.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess if we really wanted to get crazy and sci-fi, right, you would need kind of like a mini local facility, almost like a clean room box,
okay,
where, the trucks just come in and just unload, consumable sets, of course, packaged and sterile. And then inside that factory box is actually completely self-contained, and there are only robots inside, basically, unless there is some sort of problem that needs a human technician. Only robots inside, and the output of that, closed off robotic, almost like a mini data center, right? Almost like a server room, but with robots that are making the cell therapies. The output of that is the advanced therapies, for the local patients. But substantially, the idea of, GMP manufacturing is, if you could really summarize the concept, is trying to keep people and human errors as far as possible from the cells. So complete autonomy really lends itself to GMP, because GMP was essentially created to counter the inherent disadvantage of trying to use people to make these therapies.
To make the therapies. Well, I'm very interested to see where we're going to be in the next 5 years. And next question.
So last question is, what is the most important lesson you wish you had learned earlier about adopting automation in advanced therapy?
Well, I think for me, the most important lesson is that partnerships are very important in making automation or robotics, whether it's the next level, which is automatics. Partnerships are key to making things happen, and no one can make this a reality on their own. If I can talk to myself about 5 years ago when I first talked to Fred, actually I want to say, let's talk to more people. Let's not be closed to ideas, right? Nothing is a bad idea, right? I always say, as a scientist, a failed experiment, failure is not bad. It's just my theory was wrong, but that doesn't mean that it was bad, because that's still an answer. So I think for me, partnerships are key. That is my responsibility, as I said, at Thermo Fisher Scientific. And the simpler you can make it, the partnership to work with us, the better it is. And as I said earlier, right, the engineering, the genius of your engineering is because it makes things simple. So for me, as a strategic partner for our sponsors, for the cell therapy developers, as simple as I can make it to work with us, Thermo Fisher Scientific and MLI, that is how I engineer my relationships. Trust, it's built on trust, built on close relationships, tied because we are team patient.
Yes. Yes, yes. And I would say, continuing on that thread in that direction, trust is the most important thing. And so our biggest lesson about how do you build trust. So we always knew we needed to publish peer-reviewed data, but I think something that we really come to appreciate even more is you need to show your robots, right? And so that's why we now organize, visits, demos. We're also much more, open in terms of videos, explainers, these podcasts. Like hiding away your technology from the world, right? And, it might seem like, oh, it's smart because you're protecting your IP, but actually you're not building trust. So I think that the risk of being, more open and showing people what you're actually doing is totally worth it, because in exchange for that openness, you actually get trust. People see what you're doing, right? See what you're capable of, see that you're not hiding anything, and that, and that increases the speed of collaboration. So that has probably been one of our biggest lessons.
Also telling our story.
Yes.
We're telling our story now. Fred and I are telling our story, the MLI story, Thermo Fisher Scientific story, our personal stories, and I think we should do that more.
Well, wonderful. Thank you very much, Mary-Ann, for being here.
You.
Always a pleasure. See you in the next episode of Cellmates.
Bye.